Welcome to Keeping It Real with Jenn Godfrey. All right, so I have Johnny Utah on Keeping It Real with Jenn Godfrey. Johnny, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to see what we get into.
Yeah, me too. And Johnny, we're just going to go with it. You know, I mean, you and I had a really good talk and I'm super grateful to be linked up with you. You're quite the badass. I mean, your name kind of says it all, right?
Well, I got blessed with a pretty badass nickname, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. I mean, we'll get right into it. Can you tell me, how did you get the nickname? I still don't know the story.
So one of my business partners in a company that I used to own, we were working a trade show one weekend, and I said, oh, hey, by the way, we're now the unit. So being a police officer, I was attached to a drug narcotic task force. And I said, we're now attached to the Cincinnati FBI Safe Streets unit as well. And he's like, dude, you're working with the FBI. He's like, you're the real Johnny Utah. And of course, if anybody's not familiar with a cinematic masterpiece, such as the movie Point Break with Keanu Reeves, he was working, with the FBI doing bank robberies. And his character name is Johnny Utah in the movie. So he's like, dude, you're the real Johnny Utah. There might have been one or two witnesses to this leaving dinner that night. The next day at the trade show at 8 a.m., people are coming by the booth and they're like, Utah, give me two. And I'm like, I've never had a nickname or heard of a nickname sticking and, being a thing overnight. And it literally just stuck. So I just kind of went with it,
Well, and I love that for you. And I think I told you this earlier. That's one of my husband's favorite movie. I mean, so yeah. I'm just going to quote this on the pod for him to you. But yeah. He said, it's not like I'm going to swim all the way to New Zealand. Or...
Yeah. That's exactly
okay, I'm
right.
sorry. I do love the movie and Keanu Reeves. I mean, come on. It's a classic. So yeah, Johnny Utah, we love you. We love that you're on the show. So thank you.
Awesome.
You are a badass. So you do own your name. I mean, FBI, DEA, police officer. I mean, I feel very safe.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
So how did you get into that? Where did that start for you?
So I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, and we did a little farming with, horse and cattle. And my dad, stereotypical Irish Catholic, he owned a plumbing business. So a lot of my free time was pretty much just, helping him plumbing, thawing out pipes and crawling in crawl spaces and all that kind of stuff that goes along with that. Okay. But most men born in the 50s, a lot of them are cut from the same cloth. And my dad, his whole thing was women are for nurturing, men are for discipline and work ethic. And he wasn't a sexist person. That's just all he ever knew. He was a product of what he learned growing up, and so he felt that was the best way for him to be a parent, was just to be a hard ass and to rule with an iron fist and to make sure that I didn't turn out to be a piece of shit or, have shitty work ethic in life. Right. So that created a lot of problems. And the idea was that I was going to take over the family business. And I'm like, I don't want to work with this guy. I don't want anything to do with this. So I want to do my own thing, which, if you think about it, if my dad was truly trying to teach me to be a man and have work ethic and to earn my own, it's almost like he was forcing me to leave the nest and to go build my own thing and not just take over something that he built. Right. So my degree is actually in horticulture and turf management.
Okay.
So I went the tree route. I started a landscape company and that's what I did right out of college. And I was one of my next door neighbors. He was a Lexington Metro narcotics agent, and he just had cool stories. And I'm like, dude, tell me what you do today. And he's like, oh, we went and bought a bunch of cocaine, And I was like, that's awesome. And he's like, what'd you do? And I'm like, I planted 27 Eastern white pines. It was stupid, it sucked, So he's like, well, why don't you go be the cops? And I was like, man, I thought that was like a legacy thing. Like, your dad had to be a cop, your grandfather had to be a cop. And he's like, no, man, that maybe that's kind of the way it used to be. And there's some of that, but in reality is they just need good people to do the job nowadays. And so I applied at a couple of different police departments, and I got hired by one. And I remember I came home one day and I was like, hey, babe, I got something to tell you. I'm going to go be a police officer. And she's like, that's awesome. I've got news for you too. I'm pregnant. And I'm like, oh shit. So, unfortunately, I was in the police academy when my daughter was born. So, I got to spend about a week with her, and then I was gone for 22 weeks, So anyways, that's how I got into police work. And I was in Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. I did that for 16 years. And, it always makes for a funny thing whenever I meet somebody new and they're like, so like this is what you're doing for a career now. Have you always done that? I'm like, no, I used to buy heroin every day. And they're like, really?
I'm like a hardcore. I'm a hardcore drug addict. Okay,
yes.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, I'm like, nope. I spent
not the little stuff, like the hardcore.
Oh yeah, I'm into needle drugs.
Big runs.
Yeah. I like
I with the little stuff here. Yeah.
I prefer needle drugs, and so that's always kind of funny. I was on a flight one time, and I was sitting right on the wing, just staring at the engine, you know what I mean, on a plane. So it's usually like seat number 19, seat number 20, right? And a lady's sitting next to me, and she was, she kind of strikes up small talk, on the tarmac, and she was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm heading to Vegas. There's a big gun show, outdoor show." And of course I'm going there because one of my sponsors has like, come by the booth, between the hours of 12 and 2 and meet Johnny Utah and blah, blah, blah. And we don't even get to that part. And she's like, "Oh, have you always done that?" And I said, "No, I'm retired from narcotics." And her whole demeanor changed.
It changes what?
So she took her purse that was next to her, she put it on the other side, and we don't speak a word. And I'm like,
oh my
God, okay, whatever. AirPods in, and I'm up against the window, and I take a nap. So we land, and she says, "Hey, I'm really sorry. Like, I shouldn't have been that way." And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I haven't really thought about it much, And she said, "Well, I see that you have a lot of tattoos, and that you're recovering from narcotics, but it does look physically like you're doing well." And I was like, whoa, what did you say? Recovering from narcotics? And I said, no, I retired from narcotics. And she was like, "Oh my God, I feel like such an asshole." She's like, I thought you were a junkie and like you were going to rob me or something, And I'm like,
you should have gone with that and just done like Breaking Bad, been like, yeah.
And I thought, man, then she's like, I feel like such an idiot because I love watching crime dramas and narcotics. Like, she's like, I bet you have a million stories that we could have talked on the flight about the whole time. And, and I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, no, actually my nap was better, but whatever. So I did that for a while. And like I said, I owned a landscape company the whole time I was doing that. And I started another company that still today is sold in the products are still sold in Cabela's and Bass Pro and all of that. And I had an opportunity to start a hunting show, which was a huge passion for me. I really enjoy bow hunting, and it's kind of one of those deals like, if you want to be a country singer, you go to Nashville. If you want to be an actor, you go to LA. But if you're going to be a big whitetail hunter, you got to go to Iowa. That's where the big whitetails are. So I uprooted the family and we moved to Iowa, and that's what we've been doing the majority.
Kentucky.
Yes, from Kentucky.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So
you got out of the DEA and the police force, and then you decided to move to, okay.
Yep.
And then the show, just to give people a little bit of a background, can you tell us, it's a hunting show, correct?
Yeah, it's a hunting show, focused primarily around bow hunting, and I'm the host of the show, so I'm the hunter host. The camera follows me around in pursuit of different states, different species of animals, and things like that. And it's not a bloodthirst killing type deal. It's more about the adventures and why, and the pursuit of the animal and the strategy involved in hunting, different animals. And um, I'm a big field to plate type person as well.
Okay.
So I
that was
love.
going to be my next question. Do you only hunt like what you eat, or do you hunt
Correct.
like, because I know there's a lot of people that do it for the sport, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I grew up like, my dad has a ranch or had ranches, so in Eastern Washington, so they would all hunt, but they also have limits like on how many deer you can catch, right? Like, so
Correct.
that you can shoot. So it's not like people think like, oh, you're so inhumane, you're killing animals. It's like, wait a second, there's still laws, like everything. You can't just go. I mean, people can, but they're not supposed to.
Yep.
And we never killed what we weren't going to eat, right? And a lot of the times we had a butcher shop, so they would just take the meat down after the deer would dry out or whatever. They hang them and do all that stuff, and then the butcher would, and that would be our meat for like a year. We would deep freeze it, and that's what we ate. So I'm assuming that's the similar type of style.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've got 3 deep freezes here at the house, and there's everything from venison, elk, moose, bear, mountain lion.
Mountain lion. I don't think I've ever tried that. I've tried some crazy stuff, but I've never tried mountain lion.
Yeah, it's really good.
Does it taste like chicken?
It actually does. And everybody says everything tastes like chicken. No, mountain lion really does. If there was literally a meat in the middle of like a chicken and pork,
okay,
it's very similar. Bear is probably one of my least favorite, but it's always good in chili. Anything's good in chili. The only animals that I have ever killed that I did not eat were coyotes. And that's simply coyotes are killing deer left and right. And so that's more of you have to keep them in check, because the coyotes got no problem coming snatching up patches out of the backyard or whatever the dog or cat's name is.
Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. So so one thing about and that's why I'm so glad we're talking. Like, a lot of people probably wouldn't know this, and it's not like I'm out there like hunting and like you do, but I mean, I grew up on a ranch, like, a lot of the time. I didn't live there full time or anything, but it was our family, how we grew up. So anyways, we would have to shoot the marmots because they got the garden, like all the, so we all got our pistols out, and it was like it was like a fun, I don't know if it's kind of like a redneck thing or whatever, but it wasn't like, I don't think we were like rednecks. It was fun though. It was like, all right, whoever gets the most marmots, and we made games out of it because it would eat all of the garden, right? So you're growing lettuce, carrots, tomato, everything, and we're eating that for the summer, and it's cost a lot of money to agriculture and do all of that, right? To keep all the plants going. So it's when you're killing things because you are saving your food or animals, when there would be a baby deer, we would have to be out there a baby horse. We would all be out there the caretakers would be out there on high alert, because the coyotes would come in, and that's what they do. There's packs of them, and they do go after their prey, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And those species have to be kept in check. Livestock, pets are easy targets a lot of times. So that's the only animals that I've hunted, and I had no intention of ever eating. But yeah, you're right. I mean, all the different countries that I've hunted in and different states, everything is regulated, and they only issue enough tags for the checks and balance. And a lot of people don't understand this, is that, and even an overpopulation of animals is a bad thing, because a lot of disease, and there's only so much food and habitat to go around. We're not creating more habitat for animals every day. Every time another building or a road goes up, animals are getting displaced anyways. So, and to throw it out there, hunters and the license fees that we pay contribute way more money to animal conservation every year than PETA ever dreamed of. But just to throw out, that's a fact that no one likes to look at.
Yeah, here's the thing. I love animals. I have animals. I grew up with animals. I don't want to kill anything. I also eat meat. In a perfect world, I wish I could just be like, oh, I'm a vegan and I like eggs. Okay. I don't like chicken coops. I will tell you that. They're disgusting. I can't, I used to have to go get the eggs out of the chicken coop when I was younger.
Yeah.
I couldn't eat chicken for a long time, because it's when you grow up and you're going in there and you're feeding them, you're picking up those eggs and you're washing them. I will say they are pretty disgusting animals. So chickens at certain times, I go through weird phases with chicken. Like I'll bite into gristle in chicken, or like have a vein, and I'm like, nope, can't eat it for like 6 months. Nope, I won't do it, because they're just kind of gross. But no, I mean, I think it's a circle of life, like I do think that a lot of animals, they don't even live that long in the wild. It's like, if you're doing it and you're feeding your family and it's something that you enjoy, like, why not? Like, as long as you're not doing it, you're doing it in regulation, right? And I think it's really cool that you can show people, because I do think that we have a lack of the capabilities that we used to growing up, right? We have social media, we have TV now, there's tablets, like all these gaming devices for kids. There's really not a lot of like fundamental things that we're teaching our kids anymore, right? Like, okay, if there was like, there's always this talk about the satellites, the grids going down, right? Well, who's going to protect us? Where are you going to get your food if that happens? We have so many lack of skills. Like, I definitely think it's important that we have people like you, and that we still do have the basics that we should be able to have, and to teach the younger generation too, because I really think that people need to know survival, like Cub Scout, like all of that stuff. I definitely think it's important. So I'm excited. I think it's really cool that you have a show. And the show, you said that you filmed it, is it 9 years?
9 years. Yeah. I did the show for so everything is transferred back over to YouTube now. It was on the network, and then when we pulled the plug on that, everything is transferred back over to YouTube. And I'm still going to do some short form content moving forward. We're just not going to do full 20-minute episodes with closed captioning and all of the FAA guidelines and doing all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I took a passion and turned it into a job, and then the job was starting to take away from the passion.
Okay.
That makes sense. I had a really hard time kind of explaining this to people that don't hunt, that what it's like to go into the woods in dark, and like physically, mentally, and you can, you just feel it. You feel the woods, the forest, the mountains. It wakes up every morning, and to be out there. And that's why I prefer bow hunting is, and I have nothing against rifle hunting. I just prefer bow hunting because it's more of a challenge, and it's up close and personal, with those animals, and you're getting to see the way they interact and their body language. And again, everybody's like, how can you be a hunter if you love animals? I'm like, that's why I'm a hunter, because I love animals. I truly, truly love them and respect them. And those are the ultimate badasses, because I'll get out there sometimes and I'll get cold, and they have to live in it every day. I at least get to go home and get warm.
Have you
So they're
ever
just
felt
tough.
have you ever felt bad after a hunt?
Oh,
Like,
100%.
have you ever like killed something and like looked as you're like watching like the aftermath of it?
Yeah.
Have you ever, I mean, I don't think that there's anything wrong with like crying about it too. Like, and like being like, oh my God. I mean, you're
Yeah.
kind of like becoming, I mean, as if you're going to eat, it all sounds kind of weird. And I don't mean to be all like,
No, you're right.
But like, it is like you said, very personal. And I think it's like, I don't know. I think it's like you're kind of connecting with a spiritual. I mean, it's more than just, yeah, I do get what I'm saying. Okay,
well,
you explain it.
Yeah.
You explain it.
So basically, I mean, you're taking a life, and that carries a lot of responsibility and a lot of weight for me, which is why I practice with my bow, and I spend a lot of time making sure that my gear and everything is dialed in the best it can be. My fitness, that I've got good boots, good socks. I'm adequately layered to where my body's not getting fatigued from trying to stay warm, and I'm not too hot and sweaty. And I don't want anything that can compromise mind and mental and physical connection when I'm hunting. And I want to make sure that my equipment is very ethical. So in relation to that question, I had a hunt one time in Colorado. I was spot stalking mule deer with my bow on the ground. Very difficult hunt. Takes a lot of patience. And when I released the arrow at the last second, this deer moved. I didn't have any indication that this deer was going to move. My arrow did not hit my exact target for a very quick, clean, ethical kill. And I wounded this animal, and I had to spend the next 3 or 4 hours re-stalking back on this deer that's injured and in pain to get a second arrow in it. And that's one of those hunts that's always stuck with me. And I use it as a teaching point. I'm like, that's why you train to avoid those situations. And that was one of those hunts that, I mean, I was like, there's nothing I feel like I probably could have done to avoid it, but I felt like a piece of crap, because I inflicted pain in this animal. And then that goes back to, like you mentioned before, animals that aren't hunted. Mother Nature is cruel. The reality is a deer gets to be 8, 9, 10 years old in the wild, and it dies slowly, the same as a human might die slowly. Well, guess what happens? Nature. That means a coyote starts eating them while they're still alive. That's how animals die in the wild.
Well, I mean, they get attacked by other animals. They get hit by cars. Like I was just here, we live in like kind of more of a rural area, and some cattle got out, and people don't pay attention to the signs, and they're still going way too fast. And where we live, it's fair game, right? So you are supposed to pay attention. Like I ride my horse. There are people out here that have animals, even though it's growing, it's still very much so kind of rural and wild west. Like cows get out and they do, and people hit them all the time. It's so sad. And they leave them on the side of the road, which is horrible, because if their car gets totaled, which I hope it does, if they do hit an animal, their insurance is liable to take care of that animal that they hit, because they're not, the animals are protected. Yeah. So I do think that that's important to know, because I think a lot of people don't know that. And they think, oh, well, it's just scary. If you see signs that deer crossing, things like that, I mean, it's scary if you've had one jump out in front of you. I have. It's terrifying. But
I read one time, it was kind of one of those, like, I thought it was satire, and it actually wasn't. But somebody was commenting on a deer crossing sign, and they were like, that is so inhumane that the state or the federal highway board is telling those deer that there's only one place that they can cross in a roadway.
That's like so ignorant. Like, you do know that these roads are not here. Like, this is their habitat. Like, the new construction everywhere. When people see coyotes, like, oh my gosh, the coyotes. I'm like, yeah, those poor coyotes. Now they're going to be across the golf course because they have nowhere else to go. So guess what? Don't let your little 3-pound dog or cat outside, because it's probably going to be gone. Like, use common sense. Like, people are against hunting but they're going to go to the store and they're going to buy meat. Well, where do you think it comes from? Like,
yeah.
I mean, have integrity, respect. I mean, I think now I would probably definitely hunt. I just don't know how good I would be anymore. But like,
Right,
I
right.
I think, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it if it's something that you are passionate about and you are respectful of, like everything in life, moderation and respect, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, and
I think
there's
it's really cool what you do because, and by the bow, by the way, that's badass. That's archery. I took archery and I actually was in Ireland and I was doing archery at one of the castles there. It was awesome. And they had all the sheep. And I mean, I find the outdoors, like it is therapeutic for me at
it
least.
is.
That's why I have my horse and I love it. Doesn't matter where you are if you can connect. And so I think it's amazing that you can actually target, like you're saying, and you've had one hunt that sticks with you that's gone bad, and you're shooting with an arrow, like Johnny Utah. I definitely think you have your name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
That's pretty incredible.
well, and to take it all the way back to the beginning, that's how I got into hunting. I grew up farming in central Kentucky, and we didn't even have whitetail deer in our area when I was a kid. It wasn't until I moved to northern Kentucky that there was a healthier herd, of deer. And, I was concrete asphalt dealing with the dredge of society, you know what I mean, every day. And I was like, I need something to reconnect. And somebody said, you ought to get into hunting. And I'm like, well, we didn't really have deer to hunt back home. Yeah, we had rabbits and squirrels and, stuff like that. But, because we had cattle and we had steers, we always had meat, you know what I mean, at home. But once I was in that area, I said, okay, let me give it a shot. And I did it. And I thought, man, this is so cool because I can sit in a tree all day by myself. No one's trying to sell me heroin. No one's trying to shoot me, stab me. When you're undercover and your name is Sean Mullins, for a short period of time, there's not a lot of places in public you can go. So that gave me an outlet. It gave me something to go do outside of the house and remind myself that the world isn't just a total shithole. You know what I mean? Like there's beautiful parts of the world and so reconnecting with nature was my balance. And that's what I initially led me to it, was just trying to find some peace and reground myself. Because you can get very, very jaded to the world very fast. And I was noticing that socially, I was even closing myself off from everybody. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to leave the house. I'd leave the house to go buy dope, kick in doors, take people to jail. And that was about it. So,
I mean, like we're kind of pivoting back here, but I think it's the right time. But when you joined the police force, can you explain to me what you joined the police force and then you decided to go into the DEA, or how did that, like the narcotics and all that stuff come about? Like when did that you did 22 months in the police force?
Yeah, so I tried when I first got into policing, I didn't know that it was going to turn into a career. In full transparency, I just thought, hey, I'm going to do this for a little while until I figure out what I want to do when I grow up. I thought, but hey, I get to learn a lot about laws. I get to learn how to be very proficient in firearms. And I'm like, that's probably good knowledge to have. And I thought it would be fun for a little while. And then 16 years later, I was just finally leaving. But when I got into it, went through the academy, and then there's a field training program and all that kind of stuff. And during the field training program, I made a traffic stop on a guy. And, you just, like they say, the hair on the back of your neck stands up. I got that feeling something wasn't right. Long story short, the guy had just escaped from Leavenworth prison, and he had 312 pounds of marijuana in the car. And so anyways, it ended up being a very large, drug bust. And we got an escapee felony, escapee off the road. And then right after that, I heard that there was a position opening with this drug strike force. And I thought, man, I'm on probation still. They're not going to give me the job, but at least they'll know that I'm interested maybe down the road. And the director was like, no, you're perfect. You're not from this area. No one's going to know who you are. We could put you out on the street as an undercover for day one. So that's how that came about. And
okay, now I have so many questions. We've opened Pandora's box.
Yeah,
so this is crazy to me. I love this stuff. So you joined the police force. You did that arrest, which is awesome.
I was a patrolman for about a year. Okay. And then I went straight into undercover narcotics.
Well, that's pretty incredible to do that. I feel like a lot of people, I don't know the timelines. You let me know, but that seems like
that's pretty fast.
To me, is that something that you have to kind of work up to? I feel like that's a pretty.
Yeah, I think with that arrest, I think that, that was a feather in my cap. And I think also to do undercover narcotics, it takes a different type of person. Like maybe you got to be a little bit of the Mel Gibson Lethal Weapon, maybe just slightly off a little bit. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of it too is just the ability to ad lib, because a lot of it is on the fly. You don't get to rehearse the character that you're playing. And, undercover guy, there's not as much undercover narcotics work that's being done nowadays. But back then, that was still the primary thing. That was the most solid case you could make, because anybody can maybe articulate that the informant was shady, whatever. And they all are. That's why they're informants, I used to always say you can't take somebody from the church choir and send them in to a drug house to go buy drugs. It usually takes a shithead to buy drugs from a shithead. You know what I mean? So, so you're playing an odd character, and a lot of times it can be a little sketchy, and there's the inevitability that somebody's going to say, hey, well, if you're not a police officer, then you can do drugs, you can snort this line with me or whatever. So you're always thinking on your feet and trying to come up with a different angle.
So did you ever have to do drugs? Were there cases where you were like, shit, I'm going to get called out here. I'm in a dangerous situation. I better figure out how to maneuver this, or I better try to have my head on straight and not get too messed up or blasted or whatever. How did you handle that?
That was always in the back of my mind. And fortunately I never had a scenario where I was, got myself backed into a corner to where I had to. Luckily, I felt like I was always kind of quick on my feet, and whether, hey, I gotta go take a drug test at this factory job I just got, or I'm picking this up for somebody else. I don't want to pinch off of their stuff, but I'll come back later tonight, and we will, after I deliver this. And, sometimes you're the middleman. Sometimes you're the big guy. It just all depends on what character you're playing. I might have an informant introduce me as, hey, this is my cousin from out of town. He's got a lot of money, and he just wants to buy a bunch to take back to St. Louis, or he's taking it back to, Gainesville or wherever, the case may be.
Well, and you're dealing with shady people too. Did you ever get into some situations where you were like, did you have to get back up? Were you ever oh no, this is not going to go good. I'm going in, but I got my bulletproof vest under me and I'm going to get ready to duck quick. Yeah. Did you ever have those moments?
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing too. A lot of times when you're going in as an undercover into a crack house, you're not wearing a bulletproof vest. You're in character just like they are. You don't even have a gun. I might just be wearing a wire somewhere on my body, and I've got guys that are out on the street surveilling, listening to my audio. It's a one-way, piece of audio equipment, so they can hear everything that's being said, but they can't talk to me. And we were always safe. We had our safe word. If things were really bad, but. I had a few scenarios where things got really, really, really close, where I almost got made, and luckily was able to come up with a scenario that at least got me out of there safe, or was able to diffuse the situation. And a lot of times it was money. If I got backed into a corner that they thought maybe I might be a cop, you pull out a couple $1,000 cash, and it's kind of like the shiny, the shiny object. That was enough to distract them to where it was
Money
like,
talks.
yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
you know what? He might be the police and he might not, but he's got $2,000. I'm willing to roll the dice on it. And that was usually one of my go-tos, just to remind them like, hey, I'm going to let this money walk. We're going to do this deal or not.
So how did that affect your family? Like,
it was tough.
In that, was your wife, like, you said she was excited for you to become a police officer, but I'm assuming as I'm a mom.
Yeah.
And if my husband were to come to me and say, hey, I'm going to be an undercover, like DEA and FBI informant, like,
yeah,
I would probably be like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, how did she respond to all of it?
Yeah. I mean, I think she saw the passion. Like, I'm an adrenaline junkie. So I think there was a lot of things that helped. She trusted my skill. And she knew my passion that, hey, he's going to go and do it anyways. I might as well be supportive. And I've thanked her over the years that I know that I put her through a lot of stress, because there would be times where I wouldn't come home and I would just sneak a phone call at 2:00 in the morning and just be like, hey, I'm alive. Bye. And that's it. That was the only communication that we had. And then there was a couple of times where like somebody would come by the house looking for me, and they'd be good guys, but she doesn't know that when she's asleep. And you get that 2 a.m. knock on the door. Her first thought was, that's a death announcement being made.
Because that's what I would think. Oh no, so he's in the hospital or something bad happened to him.
Yeah. And then, and ironically, how that career came to end was, I had a company that we ended up selling to a large equity group. And about the same time that was happening, she sat me down one day and she said, are you invincible? Well, the mindset that you have to have when you're kicking indoors and doing that type of work is you cannot hesitate. Hesitation is what gets people killed. So the mindset is, I'm the baddest SOB on the planet. No one is ever going to get the drop on me. No one's ever going to shoot me. I trust my training, my skills, and my team, that I'll always come out on top. It's that will to survive. You're always in the fight, mindset.
Yeah, you have to be.
Yep. So I said, yeah, I'm invincible. I'm the baddest son of a bitch alive. No one's ever going to get me. And she said, okay, what do you think the chances are that you get shot the first time you go through the door? Like first day on the job. And I said, I don't know, one in a million. She said, okay, how many times have you kicked in doors in your career now? And I'm like, I don't know, 300. So her thought was, so every time you do it, the percentage is getting greater that you bust through a door and you don't get shot. So she's just simply said, there's a bullet out there with your name on it, and it's like you're trying to find it. And there was a part of me.
Wow, what an impact. Like, that's like a pretty big statement. I mean, and I like it. I mean, that's clarity right there.
Yep. And I think there was a realization to me that that's probably where I was in my career, is I was always looking for that next level of excitement. And I probably was trying to chase a bullet with my name on it. Everybody wants to test themselves. And I wanted to see where the limit was. And I've always been that person. I'm going to push everything to the limit, anyways. So we had 3 children, at the time when she made that comment, and we were up to 3. I haven't lost any kids. I don't want anybody to, freak out for a second, but, and I think that was a realization for me that I said, okay, I think I'm losing the passion for this style of policing.
You had a really good run. I mean, in Johnny, Utah, you made it out. You got to go do something that you're passionate about and take that drive and that thrill that you want, and put it into something else, which is really cool. Because I think a lot of people probably struggle with that, right? Like if they do get out, or they maybe have to get out, whether it's a medical reason or whatever, what do they do next? Like, I hear that a lot, is like, well, this was my identity. Now what do I do? And then they fall into like a really bad place, right? So I think you were really lucky, and it sounds like she's an amazing woman for helping you see that. And I like her statement. I like the state of mind that she talked to you, because it was like a question that you kind of realize, like, oh, okay. It's not like she's telling you what to do, but I get it. Okay. I like that.
Yeah. So it was good timing. And like I said, we had an offer to actually purchase this company that my business partner and I had grown and built up over the years. And I said, okay, cool. I can step away. I don't get to buy the yacht, but I don't have to be a bullet sponge anymore either. So I said, all right, let's do this. And so that created the pivot and the move to Iowa, so Iowa's an interesting state because everybody wants to come here to hunt deer. If you're a
I would have never known. I don't know much about Iowa other than there's corn, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of corn there, and I've heard it's pretty flat, and that's pretty much all I know. Like,
lots of corn,
and it's cold in the winter and it snows.
That's right. It's lots of corn, beans, a lot of bush light. It is flat. So if you're a non-resident of Iowa, you can only archery hunt deer once every 5 years.
Oh, wow.
But if you're a resident, you get 2 buck tags every single year. So the easier thing is just to move here. So that's what we did. Yeah. I mean, to think that I would literally move to another state just to chase whitetail deer.
Did your wife have a job too? I mean, was she stay at home, or was she able to move her career?
She was stay at home at the time. Okay. We were very fortunate that for about 14 years, she got to be a stay at home mom. That's what she wanted to do. And it was, I think financially, if people can do it and it works into that family dynamic, I love it. And that's not a sexist thing at all. That's why I say, if it works. If both parties are cool with that. So we were very blessed to be able to do that. I love the idea that, the kids could call from school and be like, hey, I got an upset stomach. I'm on my way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I thought that was really cool to do and have that opportunity to not have, latchkey kids.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to point out that you had a very traditional upbringing, and so did I. So I think that that's okay. And I think that it's okay to be a man who wants that traditional way of life. I think it's okay to be a female and say, hey, I want to work and make the money. And I think it's okay if you have an arrangement and the husband says, hey, actually, I don't want to work and I don't have to work, and the wife wants to have a career and the husband wants to stay home. I mean, I think that's the beauty of today, is that there's really no rules. So yeah, I feel like that's great that you were able to do what you wanted to do, what was best for your family. And being a stay-at-home parent, by the way, is very okay.
We run businesses. That's a job.
Yeah, we run businesses. Yeah. We don't have parents, grandparents, like we don't have people to help us. We've done it all on our own. Yeah. And we were in COVID when I had twins and everything was shut down. So we were running 2 businesses, no help from any family. And we did it on our own. And I don't know if we did the best job, but we did it. And I give major respect to any parent, especially stay-at-home moms and dads that are doing it single, that are able to take care of their children. And I think that as a parent should be our number 1 first priority, period. So I don't think that her being a stay-at-home, I mean, that's amazing. She's able to do that. You were able to provide that for her. But that's a very big job, especially for 3 children. Like, that's probably one of the hardest jobs. And then holding down the house too, that's another hard job. It's like a house manager. People don't give being a stay-at-home enough credit, because if you're really a stay-at-home that doesn't have the nanny and all the other stuff, and that's really your job, I always say it's like you're a house manager. You're managing the schedule. You're managing your kids. You're managing the sports. You're managing your husband, the husband's schedule.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a lot, and I don't think that should be undercredited at all. I mean, that to me is nothing. So to be frowned upon, and I'm traditional in a lot of ways. I'm also very independent, and I'm never going to let somebody tell me that I can and cannot buy something if I really want it within reason.
Right.
So my husband and I work together, and we're a team, so it works really well for us. But yeah, I mean, so when you left and you started your channel and then the hunting, which is awesome, where do you feel like you kind of made the life choice? Because you and I had a chance to talk about this, and you had made a decision in your life that you were going to completely get sober. When did that change for you? Like, when did that even start for you? When were you, so you must have been out of the DEA and stuff when you did that as a police officer, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So I had moved to Iowa, and then my father passed away, and my dad was an alcoholic the majority part of his life. But he was just one of those old codgers that, I mean, he was an alcoholic, but he still got up at 5 o'clock every morning and busted his ass. He was a functioning alcoholic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But alcohol was a crutch for him, emotionally, and it is what it is. And I got to see a lot of the bad stuff that comes with alcoholism. I'm a product of verbal and physical abuse myself. So was my mom. And my sister, oddly enough, like she got off scot-free, but you know what I mean? Like, she was never a punching bag, you know what I mean? But so I grew up with that. And of course, again, like I touched on before, a lot of times we're products of what we were exposed to. So, I became an alcoholic, and I could control it. But my issue was, if I was drinking, I was drinking to get drunk. I wasn't having one beer. That was my problem. Is when I decided I wanted to drink, my decision was I wanted to black out and forget it all. So when my dad passed, he actually eventually got sober himself in later in his life. And but
good.
So it was during COVID, and I was hunting in Kansas, and oddly enough, my camera guy, he didn't know what he was taking pictures of, but he actually captured images of me on the phone getting the phone call that my dad had cancer. And my mom had said, "Hey, your dad's got this cough," and I'm like, "He's probably got COVID. He needs to go, and him being a smoker." And I said, again, not taking it political. Everybody's got their own opinion on COVID. But my understanding is people that were smokers, it did hit them a little worse. And so I said, he should probably go get checked out, So she called me and she said, "Well, we're going to go to the doctor tomorrow." So the next day she called me and she said, "Well, it's not COVID." I'm like, I eat right. I work out every single day. I do jujitsu. And this dude smokes 3 packs a day and somehow doesn't get COVID. You know what I mean? He's like the most unhealthy human I've ever met in my life. And she says, "Well, it's not COVID. It's stage 4 cancer." And I was like, like what happened to 1, 2, and 3? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was dead in 6 weeks. So,
I'm so sorry to hear that, by the way. That's a huge,
and he never had COVID. He never got COVID once. And my mom, she was very adamant on all of the death certificates and all of the paperwork that was done at the hospital and with the hospice nurse. She said, "If you guys call this COVID, I'll sue the shit out of you." She's like, "He didn't die of COVID, So anyways, from that day that he died, I quit drinking immediately. and I quit tobacco as well. And
Good for you.
Then on the 1 year anniversary of his death, I was in Saskatchewan and I was hunting. And the lady that ran this operation, this little hotel, it was like a grocery store and a hotel all under one roof. But you're in the middle of nowhere. You know, they gotta pack as much in they can into one footprint, you know. And I mean, you could get your oil changed, you could get gas, you could also buy Doritos.
One-stop shop.
It had everything, and it was like a bed and breakfast. But she's like, well, congratulations on shooting a whitetail today. You need to do a shot of whiskey. And I said, no, ma'am, 1 year sober, I don't want to drink. And she said, but this is Saskatchewan whitetail whiskey. And I said, if that bottle says Saskatchewan whitetail whiskey, I basically bet her that it didn't. But if it did, I'll do a shot as my, defeat. And that's what it said. It said Saskatchewan whitetail whiskey. So I had her open a fresh bottle. I did one shot. I bought the entire bottle of this like $7 gut rot whiskey. It's the nastiest whiskey I've ever had in my life. And I'm from Kentucky, so I can say what's good whiskey, what's good bourbon, and what's shitty bourbon,
Yeah.
And so anyways, I ended up buying the bottle. It sits on my shelf. I've never reopened it since then. So I'm now 4 years sober from that point on. So I'm 5 years sober with one shot. I'm technically 4 years sober completely.
Well, congratulations. And that's a huge, a day's a day, right? And it's one day at a time.
That's
so, it doesn't matter. If you're 25 years or if you're 24 hours, I think that is huge. And it's just the will to keep going and wanting to do something better for yourself. And I'm sorry to hear about your dad, by the way.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's tragic. I will say your dad sounds like he was an amazing man. And, that traditional, like I can relate to a lot of what you said because you're talking about your dad being a traditional in the 50s. I feel like that's how things kind of were. And like, I think it's really cool that your dad was able to get some sobriety in too, because a lot of people, I would say maybe like 70s and 80s, born before the 70s or 60s. They just don't take sobriety like we do. There's just such a different stigma on it. And there's a different stigma on today, like what sobriety is, because there's so much more awareness towards it. And I feel like back in the day, it was like, if you were a functioning alcoholic and you paid your bills, you're not an alcoholic, right?
That's right.
They looked at it like, they were looking at it like, well, if I'm a bridge under the, if I'm a bum living under the bridge, then yeah, maybe I'll have an effing problem. But I'm fine. I'm paying my bills, and don't you tell me what to do. That's just kind of that old grit kind of. I think that self pride that they had, and they didn't know any different, and so you got to give it to them. And yeah, we didn't have all the feelings and all the stuff that we do today, which I think is good and bad. But so we don't need to get into all that. But I think that's like a really cool thing that you shared, though, that he was able to get a little bit of time. How much sobriety did he have before he passed?
He was probably in that 5-6 years, and even a couple of years before that, it was really slowing down, a lot. And which was cool to see. But, when I talk about, men or women that are cut from that cloth, born in the 50s, born in the 40s. So my dad knew that he had cancer, but he wasn't going to let his problem be our problem. So
did your mom know?
She suspected, but even though he was lying to her, like he would go for his annual checkup and he was like, they said, I'm healthy as a horse. I got the lung capacity of a 27-year-old. And I'm like, no. And we just noticed him, the last 3 or 4 years that he was alive, he looked like he was aging 10 or 15 years,
I can see it.
So I suspected it. And, like, again, you don't just go to the hospital and you have stage 4 cancer. I mean, you had 1, 2, and 3 at some point, and he knew it. But once it got to stage 4, he couldn't hide it anymore. And like I said, he was dead in 6 weeks. And I'm thankful that he went fast. For him,
So he didn't suffer.
yeah, for him, I'm glad it was 6 weeks. For my own personal greed, I was upset because I wanted more time. I'm like, I still have so many questions. I still have so many answers and that I still need. And I had buddies that told me, they said, hey, this is going to hit you hard because, your dad was your guy. Like, that was the guy. And I took my mom for granted my whole life. My mom and I have a phenomenal relationship. We always have. But because my mom was my constant, it made me seek the approval of my father 10 times more. And even though he had his shortcomings, I'm like, it's okay. Yeah, he beat the shit out of me when I was a kid, or he punched me in the face. It's okay. He didn't know any better. I would forgive him for stuff that if my mom was, shitty towards me one time, I might hold that grudge for a couple months. You know what I mean? And so, when he died, it was
your idol, right?
Yeah,
he was your idol.
yeah, that's who I wanted.
You look up to him. I mean, yeah, you
That's who I
wanted
wanted
his
to be
approval.
like.
You wanted to be like him.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I think that's normal.
I wrote my first short film that I ever wrote. It's called Work More Hours. And that was a life motto that my dad used to always say when I was a kid. I'm like, how do you make more money? And he's like, work more hours. Just kept it simple.
I like it.
And, but what he really meant by that was, it doesn't matter what you want out of life. You just got to put the time in. You have to, and know that no one's going to give it to you. You're going to have to go earn it and get it yourself. And don't be dependent on other people. So I ended up getting work more hours tattooed on my arm, and I've adopted it as my own motto that I use today. And it's kind of been a big piece. So I made a short film that I released, and it's called Work More Hours. It's a 3.5-minute short film, but it basically talks about my relationship with my father and essentially how I spent my whole life just trying to impress him. And I was able to create the short film while he was still alive. And it didn't really resonate to me as much until after he died. But at least he was still alive, and he got to see the short film, before he passed.
What did he think? I mean, that's really cool. What did he think when he saw it?
Well, because my parents are not the most tech savvy, I sent them a URL link, and it was a private link. It wasn't public yet. And so I waited about 30 minutes, and they didn't call me back. So I called them, and I'm like, okay, all you have to do is copy and paste it. It's a URL link. It'll take you straight to this private link, this site. And they were like, no, we eventually figured it out. We've been crying for the last 30 minutes. So
it resonated, and that's really special. You got the moments with him, which is important, right?
Yeah, and that was huge for me. And in all honesty, that's what really kickstarted my photography, videography. I mean, I've been fortunate to be a published photographer, and I've got framed magazine covers and articles and stuff like that in my office. And photography is really what led me into the hunting show. I was known as an outdoor photographer. And then eventually the brands that were buying my photos or sending me on remote shoots, they were like, why aren't you in front of the camera? And I'm like, well, because I can't be in front of the camera and behind the camera at the same time. And so they said, well, figure it out, because you need to be in front of the camera. So I then kind of transitioned over to more of like a DP on a lot of these shoots, to where it's still my creative, but it might not be my finger all the time. But I enjoy storytelling, and I think that's the lost art, as you know, with marketing stuff yourself. is, that's how you build brands and you build community, is through that storytelling. And, my idea is when someone sees one of my photos, my first thought is I want them to be like, oh, those are kick-ass boots, or, oh man,
Yeah.
Gore-Tex has got a new waterproof jacket. I could care less about the actual product I'm promoting. I want them to engage and say, shit, I want to be there. I want to be on that mountain hiking that hill. You know what I mean? So that's kind of been my idea of product lifestyle, imagery that I do for clients, and how I do my storytelling. I want the consumer to want to be that person.
And I love that you said that, because I feel like that about my social media. Like, I feel like, so I lost all of my pictures and stuff. My parents were divorced, and my mom sadly lost our storage unit.
Oh no.
And so I lost all my baby stuff, all my pictures, high
Oh
school yearbooks, everything gone because of this, the storage wars or whatever, people
yeah.
don't buy it.
Yeah. Wait, did
Thankfully,
you have any bangs in your high school pictures though?
yeah.
Hey,
Oh
maybe
gosh.
it might
Oh
be okay to lose some Aquanet photos. It's okay.
no. Okay. Well, my story is different. I'll have to maybe come on one of your shows and talk about
Yeah.
my story. But it's but mine, yeah. So I've always been in photography too, and I love it. And I always think of my Instagram and my social media as like a photography book to look back on our travels and my kids and like the places that we've been. And it's like cinematic to me. It's like very personal to me. So when I'm sharing my Instagram, it's not like ever in a bragging way. It's like gratitude. And like I look at it now and I'm so grateful that I can store it in the cloud and that I can share certain moments, because I lost so much of that growing up. So I can relate to that. And it's not, to me, I want to be able to showcase like, oh my gosh, we're in Costa Rica, look at the monkeys, look at the, it's just the lifestyle, and incorporate every single moment of like where we are. Not, I mean, sure, there's some vanity in there too, I'm sure. And like, I'm a female, okay, but at the same time, like I can relate to that. And I think that's really important if you are passionate about what you do, which you are, and you're good at what you do. And it's not a job. It's a craft and a hobby. And not very many people are good at it, and it takes time to get that perfect shot and that moment. So the fact that you can do that and do that for brands and capture those moments, I think is really incredible, because it's a form of art to me. So I resonate with that in a big way.
And the biggest thing that helped me in that too was, I spent about 2 years living out of my truck and just bebopping around, sleeping in my truck in between photo shoots, working for Yeti, Sitka, different companies, traveling all over the place, Alberta, and all over the United States, just, storytelling, creating content, commercials, reels, for companies. And that was a really cool lesson too, to like really hone in on that craft too, right? And it was fun. I kind of miss it. I do miss that nomadic lifestyle for a little bit. It's not the best for family life, but it was super fun.
No, and the fact that you said that you can kind of, I feel like you've, how your kids are older now, right?
My oldest is 23.
Okay. So, I mean, I think it's really cool nowadays. I know it was a lot harder and maybe not as much awareness, like, probably when your kids were younger, but it is cool that we can, and it does cost money. So I think that that's something to take in consideration too. But it is really cool that we can take our families within reason with us to some of these places too.
Sure.
And I don't think you should ever give up your dream, because, and it sounds like you and your wife have a really good relationship. So I don't want to downplay that, because I think that that's really great that she lets you do what you're passionate about, and she's been able to help motivate you. And it's really important to have those people and those pillars of support, especially when you're in sobriety, you're struggling with things,
Yep.
whether it's loss, whether it's grief, whether, there's all different walks of life. And I think your children will respect you for that too, because they're going to see the grit and how hard. Not to say we don't all have trauma, right? Like, I'm sure my kids are going to pack and punch a bunch of stuff at me, and I'm trying to be the best mom I can be. And I'm sure it's like I'm going to fail in many ways, but I just think that you are doing a really good job, and I'm excited that you're able to do this and you're still passionate. And that's really great, because it sounds like there's a lot of things that could have held you back. I mean, with the loss of your dad, doing a job that's got to be extremely dangerous, taxing, and not a lot of people are willing to do that. I mean, you're around crazy, I'm just going to say it, excuse my French, but crazy motherfuckers. And I mean, when people are high, they do crazy stuff.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And the fact that you can walk in a room and be like, what's up? I'm here for the 8 ball, or whatever you're doing. And like be around that. And I mean, that is crazy. I love that. I mean, it takes, I mean, the stories are why we're doing this, right? I mean, you want to motivate people, educate people. And I don't, in the hunting, I mean, there's so much, like you said, PETA, like people are against everything we do. I mean, you don't hunt, they're going to say something. You do hunt, they're going to say something. You do this or do that, you're sober, you're not sober. There's always going to be the good, the bad. So I just think we always need to stay in our lanes and do what is you're passionate about. And I love that. And I'm excited to see what you do. So you were dropping some big names there though, like Yeti. And I mean, that's really cool. So do they hire you to go do the photography for them?
Yeah. I mean, over the years, again, a lot of them are more outdoor focused brands, but Grizzly Coolers, Matthews, Hoyt, Tacticam, Loophole Optics, Kawasaki, Ozonics, PSE. I always feel like the NASCAR driver that's in victory lane that's like trying to remember all 400 of their partners. But yeah, I mean, essentially, like, in your world, like, you totally get it. Everybody's like, oh, you're a professional hunter. No, I get paid to promote brands through hunting and the outdoors. Under Armour. Yeah, there's the Under Armour logo over my head. So I was an Under Armour athlete for 3 years, and there's only been 5 or 6 Under Armour hunt athletes ever in existence.
Tell us what that is, because you say Under Armour athlete, and I know Under Armour, and I think most people do, but I would think of an Under Armour athlete, just from what I'm thinking, and correct, that's why I'm asking you, would be like a runner, or tell me the difference of what you do.
So Under Armour, obviously, as a culture and a brand, is focused on athletic, sports and things like that. And as a characterized nomenclature of a lot of times hunters are, well, it's just a fat dude that sits up in a tree and waits to shoot an animal. But what about the guys that are hiking mountains, chasing elk and chasing mule deer? So Under Armour was kind of a trailblazer in that, crossing the chasm of creating a new category of the hybrid athlete, the hybrid hunter, the person who's not the fat guy that sits in a tree stand and drinks beer, while he waits to hunt. So it created a new category, and they really focused at least their hunt division was very focused on, fitness and hiking and being athletic, because it's not easy doing 700-800 foot verts multiple times throughout the day at 10,000 foot elevation. I mean, I think the most miles I ever did on an elk hunt is we did like 17.5 miles one day in the mountains.
That's insane. And that's okay. I do that on horse, but like you're doing that on foot
with a pack and everything.
Of work.
Yeah. So they kind of created that category, and unfortunately, Under Armour was almost ahead of its time, and people didn't quite get it. They were like, oh, so I got to be a bodybuilder to be a hunter now? What kind of crap is this? Because that's where everybody goes. They go with the extreme. And it wasn't until other brands started doing it, like Kuyu and Sitka and some of these other big brands, that they adopted this. Like, no, hunters are athletes too. And it takes physical fitness to be in shape. And it's grueling to do these hunts. And then there was too much competition for Under Armour. You know what I mean? Like, they did all the heavy lifting, for 5 or 6 years of creating a category that other companies were able, that were even more well-funded, were able to just come in and kind of swoop up and take the market, the consumers, in that market category. So, but I was with Sitka. I left Sitka, went to Under Armour, then recently came back to Sitka, as far as doing some promotions and stuff with those people. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the other part of it too was, and that was just super cool because I've been hunting semi-professionally for the last 15, 16 years, but I graduated college at 120 pounds. I weigh 210 now, and I work out.
Wow.
I work out every day, and I do
You're very
jujitsu.
disciplined. Yeah, you're very disciplined.
So
and
it took a long time.
This episode is brought to you by Real Reach Digital, where SEO meets AI to grow your business. Thank you so much for listening and spending time with me. As always, keep it real, and see you next week.